The topic of expansion is always seems to kind of pop up now and then with with so many places wanting to get into the NHL and want to be a part of the NHL. Rumors of potential expansion to Houston, to Atlanta, maybe Phoenix trying to get a team back, and all that stuff. And of course, the one team that I know a lot of hockey fans want back, me included, are these guys, the Quebec Nordiques. Well, I got to thinking, if the NHL does expand to 34 teams to maybe 36 teams, I don't think they want to expand into Canada. I don't think they want to go to Canada. I don't think they want to give Canada another team at all. Whether or not they go to 34 teams or even 36 teams. And here's, I think, the main reason why. And this, I think, could hamper any potential Canadian owner. Now, I tried to look up, which I couldn't really find it. But the Canadian dollar in the mid-90s, I believe, was somewhere it might have been in like the high 70 cents, 75, 70, 78, 79, 80 cents in comparison to the dollar in Canada. Because currently, one Canadian dollar is 70 cents US. That's not that great. That's definitely not that great. Now, I believe in the 90s, when all of these teams were moving, and there was talk of Edmonton and Calgary being in trouble, maybe even Vancouver. I mean, there was talk of literally no Canadian teams being left with the exception of Montreal and Toronto. That's how bad the economy was up in Canada. When you had Quebec leave and all this stuff. I mean, yeah, there were obviously factors. They couldn't get an arena done. They didn't want to help pay for an arena and all that stuff. Which, I mean, we all understand. The whole idea of any kind of public money is always kind of tricky. And back in the mid 90s, you didn't have anywhere near the type of stuff that you could use now toward an arena. Like here for US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. The main driver of funding for that arena was going to be the whole e-tabs, pull tabs on a touch screen, basically kind of like how a casino game would look. And people were thinking, oh, that's not going to work. They paid that they paid the arena off 2 years early because the e-tabs are just monster hits here. And they paid that off. You didn't have that in the 90s. You didn't have stuff like that in the 90s where you could have all these different sources of revenue to help in the public funding. So, and of course, Quebec definitely did not have that. Now, of course, Quebec, they have an NHL ready arena. They've got everything there. But what I think is the big factor as to why I don't think the NHL will ever expand into Canada again is right here. 70 cents. The Canadian dollar is worth 70 cents US currently. In the mid 90s, when everything was struggling, I think the Canadian dollar was higher. Now, like I said, I tried to find information on that. I couldn't. I couldn't find any type of information on what the Canadian dollar was in US in like 1995. I couldn't find it. I tried my damnedest to try to figure out how much was the Canadian dollar worth in 1995. I couldn't find any. I couldn't find it at all. I even emailed Ben. I even emailed Ben and asked him, because I mean he lives up there. And I'm like, do you remember what the Canadian dollar was worth in the mid 90s? And he's like, yeah, I have no idea. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, who would think about that? It was 30 years ago. But I think that's one of the main reasons why I don't think the NHL will ever expand into Canada. So the odds of the Quebec Nordiques coming back is just crazy. And I also look too, because the current fee for, now this of course, this is based on Seattle. $750 million it cost the Seattle Kraken to come into the league. 750 million US dollars is 1,067,591,190 cents, or $190.00 Canadian. So that is what it would cost a Canadian billionaire or any Canadian that would want to get in on the expansion. That's what it's going to cost in Canadian money. Now, all the NHL payrolls are paid in US dollars. So not only would a Canadian owner have to put up this amount in Canadian dollars, but you have to pay it in US dollars. And the Canadian dollar, of course, is only worth 70 cents US. So for cost effectiveness, I don't see it happening. I don't see a Canadian team being granted an expansion team when you have the Canadian dollar worth so much less in Canada. 70 cents. I mean, what? I mean, the US dollar goes a long way in Canada. But I mean, again, it's only worth 70 cents in Canada. It's crazy. And will the fans sell the arena out in Quebec? Absolutely they would. But I mean, I don't think it's just Quebec. I don't think they would give an expansion team to anybody in Canada, the NHL. They want the big markets. They want the Houstons. They want the Atlantas. They want the Phoenixes. They want, I mean, anywhere where there is a ton of money to be made, that's where the NHL wants to go. Doesn't matter about fan base. Doesn't matter about how well they would draw. It's all about this. That's what it's about. That's why they want the big markets. That's why that's why they would not leave Arizona for so long, when they should have left Arizona many years before they ever did. They wanted that money. It was a big market. They thought they could make it work there. And they didn't. And it couldn't. That's another reason why, too, that when they moved the Coyotes, they moved them to Salt Lake City, Utah. Again, that's a big market. Now, Utah, of course, is not exactly, known as a hockey hotbed, but it's a big market. And that's why the NHL they're focused. I mean, they will give Atlanta a third opportunity before they ever give Quebec another chance. And because of the fact that the Canadian dollar is only worth 70 cents US, I think the NHL in a lot of ways they don't want to put an expansion team back in Canada and have the Canadian dollar just keep tanking and getting lower, and then 10 years down the road they have to yank that team out of there because the team can't make it. So that's why I honestly think I don't see the NHL ever expanding, ever giving Canada an expansion team. Why did Winnipeg get a team back? They got a team that relocated. The NHL was not going to give an expansion team to Winnipeg. And I don't see the NHL, when they do, and I do say when they do expand, because I mean, how are you not? Now, the next time they expand, I think this is going to be higher. They want to be able to charge $1 billion for an expansion fee. Now, even the Fertittas in Houston said $1 billion. Yeah, that might even take them out of the running. And the Fertittas, they got money. They got money in Houston. But even they looked at $1 billion expansion fee and said, yeah, I don't know about that. So, if the NHL wants to expand again, you might have to stick at this number. You might have to stick at $750 million, or you might have to go to maybe only $850 million. But with the current fee for expansion based on Seattle being $750 million, that's over $1 billion in Canadian money. I don't see any. I mean, the biggest billionaire in Canada having to come up with $1 billion, $1 billion in Canadian money for a franchise. I don't see it. I don't see it happening. And I would love nothing more than to see the Quebec Nordiques come back. I really would. I really want to see the Nordiques come back. I want to see this jersey on the ice again. This thing is fabulous. I would love to see this thing on the ice again. I don't, with the way the Canadian economy is, with the way the Canadian dollar and just how bad it is, only being worth 70 cents US, I don't see it. I don't see a Canadian team. I don't see a Canadian team being able to be put here. And I don't know if a Canadian team could survive, especially if the Canadian economy were to continue to tank. Which, I mean, you got Justin Trudeau up there who just he's I don't know, he's odd, but I guess the odds of a Canadian team being brought in as an expansion team to the NHL with that being that price, $1 billion, over $1 billion Canadian, I don't see it. I just don't see it happening. And again, I would love to see it. But I think if the NHL goes to 34 and even potentially 36 teams, I don't think you're going to see a team in Canada. I don't see it. As much as I would love to see Quebec get a team back because they already have the arena. They have the arena ready to go. It's just too bad they couldn't get that arena done back in the 90s. But the arena's all ready to go. All they need is a team. But you also need an owner that's going to have some very, very deep pockets. $1 billion Canadian, $750 million US for over $1 billion Canadian. That's I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if any owner in Canada could handle that. And then, of course, having to pay the players and everything, and having to pay everything in U.S. dollars. And again, the U.S. dollar, the Canadian dollar, being only 70 cents U.S. I don't know. I guess I don't know. So, but let me know what you guys think. Would you guys love to? Do you think an expansion team in Canada could work? Even in this economic setup, being the Canadian dollar being only worth 70 cents US, do you think a Canadian team, if a city in Canada, if say Quebec was given an expansion team, could it work? Could it work from a financial standpoint? Or is it a situation where the NHL looks at it and says, from a financial standpoint, we can't do it. We can't put a team there. We don't think it would be viable long term. I don't know personally. I would want it to work. But again, with the way the Canadian economy is right now, and with what the value of the Canadian dollar is, I don't know. But let me know what you guys think. You think a Canadian expansion team could work from a financial standpoint? Or do you think the NHL would end up having to step in within 10 years and say, listen, it's not working. We gotta, out they go. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you would like to share this video with your friends, with family, with anyone you would like. Go right ahead and do that. That would be incredible. And like I said, I want to see the Quebec Nordiques come back. I want to see this back on the ice again. I would love it. The odds of it, I think the odds of it happening, getting an expansion team, to me, I think it's pretty long. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be wrong. I want to see the Quebec Nordiques. I want to see a Canadian expansion team happen. I don't necessarily think it's going to. But let me know if you think I'm wrong. Like I said, I want to be wrong, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Hit like and subscribe. I will see you guys again later.